We are in Fallon, Nevada, in one of the agricultural centers of northern Nevada, where there's a lot of farming of alfalfa. Behind me, you see some alfalfa field and also an irrigation ditch, where we've got a lot of weeds occurring. These irrigation ditches have water throughout the growing season, and weeds really like them. We're interested in the effects of predators on alfalfa aphid pests and whether we can encourage the densities of these predators through the use of conservation management, or basically whether the different kinds of plants and habitats that occur around the alfalfa field influence how many predators there are and how well they suppress aphid pest densities. One of the predators that we really associate with aphids are ladybugs. Ladybug beetles can be very common in alfalfa fields, and it's long been thought that they're very important to suppressing pest densities on these crops. So what we want to know are, what are the best predictors of ladybug beetle density in this landscape? Is it something about the characteristics of this ditch in terms of what plant species are present, how many plant species are present, etc.? Or is it something within the alfalfa field itself, or something at some more distant scale? And so we approached that by looking at the kinds of plant types and land cover we were finding within a kilometer of each field, and asking what kinds of land cover, including the variables that describe this ditch, what kind of impact those different things had on ladybug densities.
In the past, you would do this by looking at maps and manually categorizing the different types of habitat that you would find around the field. So the agricultural fields, the weedy areas, the natural vegetation. And our new technique for doing this is to use satellite imagery. This is a satellite image from the Super Dove constellation in its natural color, so as we would see it with our human eyes. And after we classify the image, it puts each pixel into a discrete category that we can use to quantitatively evaluate the area of that particular habitat type. These dark green areas are where the alfalfa fields are. We also have large areas of natural vegetation, and mixed in with that we have weedy patches and little pockets of riparian vegetation. Also, we have some unnatural features on the landscape that we've also categorized, like roads and other impermeable surfaces. We established plots where we surveyed all of the arthropods within the field, and we used a modified leaf vacuum to collect those insects. And then we counted them all, so we had a sort of a census of what bugs were in the field. And then we used the satellite imagery to assess the habitat available to those bugs to create an understanding of the correlations that drive arthropod densities in the field. So we're really able to discover what types of habitat are best supporting the densities of arthropods.
What we found was that, as we had predicted, weeds were one of the most important predictors of ladybug densities. In fact, they were good, positive predictors of densities of other predators that might be important for other pests of alfalfa as well. One of the unexpected results of this study, and I think one of the most interesting as we go forward in trying to understand how landscape use impacts pest management and biocontrol, is that some of the weeds that we characterized were not visible from our on-the-ground surveys of these ditches. Instead, those weeds were picked up by some of our remote sensing techniques as we looked at different spectral characteristics of these landscapes. We found that weeds, even within the alfalfa fields, were very important to our ability to predict the densities of these predators. From a landscape perspective or an irrigation perspective, I think it really speaks to the potential for these irrigation ditches, particularly in these arid landscapes where there's such an oasis of life for plants and other insects. The potential for these irrigation districts to manage these ditches in ways that could promote positive impacts on the surrounding farms. And so that could mean, for example, thinking about what kinds of plants are in these ditches, encouraging plants that tend to be better hosts for the biocontrol predators than for the pests of the crop, and retaining some of the natural biodiversity that we get along these ditches for those benefits that they could provide to the crop.